This podcast is a 98 Studios production.
Today's the day, baby.
Today's the day.
Today's the day.
Today's the motherfucking day.
Today is the day.
Today's the day.
Today is the day.
Today's the day.
What up, everybody? Welcome back to Today's the Day with Zack Anderson. We have a special guest today. I'm excited. These episodes are always extremely entertaining for me, as well as we go and get a lot of nuggets. But before we dive into it, Miss Suzie Turner, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking the time. I appreciate you, and I'm very excited. Two things. First off, I don't know you. I don't know your story well, so this is going to be brand new for me. So I'm excited, and I always get excited when I don't know people. And number two, our female guest list is small but growing, and we get a very large request from people to have more females that kick ass, just women taking over. And I think it's super, super exciting. It's fun. Totally different perspective, which I'm stoked to talk about. But let's kick this thing off. I don't know the first thing about you. So well, I do now, but not until today. Fill me in. Tell us who you are. Let's get through the whole story, get to where you're at today, because you're in a super unique spot that I think is really, really inspiring and cool.
All right. I am Suzie Turner.
Yes, you are. Where are you from, Miss Suzie?
So I grew up in Provo, Utah, and spent most of my youth there. I'm an entrepreneur now, so this story will probably kind of connect back to that and then where I am now. I grew up around here. I left saying I would never come back.
Yep.
And here I am.
That happens often.
That does.
It happens a lot with Utah specifically.
Yeah.
I've noticed that. So
I don't know why.
Grew up in Provo, family of how many? Where were you in the lineup? What was growing up in Provo like? Paint us a picture of what that was like, because I do think it will probably interconnect to where you're at right now.
Yeah, I think so too. So my parents divorced when I was young, and I was about 8, and my mother got remarried. So we became a blended family of 10.
Classic Utah story.
Classic Utah story, I know. And let's see. And I was I wasn't the youngest. I was the youngest before we blended, and then I lost my spot. So you can imagine, right? Attention getter, and all
you
those
lost
things.
it.
Yeah.
How many were there blood siblings before you guys became blended family?
5 of each.
5 of each.
We were a true Brady Bunch.
That's like
Plus.
perfect.
Yeah.
There you go.
Does your audience know Brady Bunch? I wonder.
I know Brady Bunch.
Okay, good.
That used to be on TV, and we would have to watch it, and it was like, oh boy. That's awesome.
That's funny.
Okay, so you lost your spot as youngest. Pretty smooth childhood, or what was it like?
I had a good childhood. Yeah, I mean, my mom is a big inspiration for me. She was a single mother, and we were all little. She hadn't worked at all. They got married when she was 19 or so, and so she had always been a stay-at-home mom and raising her kids. And so I think at some point she said to me, don't ever get in a position where you have to rely on someone else. Mm-hmm. And so I think we all kind of grew up thinking, like, what do we want to do, and where do we want to go? And you know, that was just a huge inspiration. And to see her do that, she started as a secretary at a bank and ended up being a vice president. It was, I have some years on you. So it was, Utah's come a long way since then. There's a lot of great opportunity here, but I think then it didn't seem like there was a lot of great opportunity. And honestly, I was probably forced out a little, not forced out, but,
pushed.
One of my early jobs, or I got a job at Nordstrom. I had been going to school full time, and I was really getting tired of it. I was at the University of Utah, and I was like an art major or something. And there was an opening for Nordstrom for their anniversary event. And so I got a job. My first day was the first day of that event. And at the end of the day, the manager pulled me in, and she fired me for taking too many of the sales. She called me a shark. She said that I was taking all the other salespeople's sales. And
you hate when salespeople perform, right? It's terrible.
I was like, wait, I thought I did incredible.
Yeah. You're like, I thought that was the objective.
I'm commission based. Did you think I wouldn't?
Yeah.
And so Yeah.
That's so wait, that actually happened?
That happened. Yeah.
So you got fired because you were like honesty hour. Were you like low blow sneaking people, or were you just literally out hustling every other sales rep on the floor?
Yeah. I mean, over the years, the story will go on, but I proved to definitely be like, I could manage a lot of customers. I still love selling. Absolutely love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So that developed a little chip on your shoulder to Nordstrom in Utah. You're like, I'm out of here. They fired me. This is
kind of, yeah. Actually, I loved it. What really happened is my cousin was working in California at Nordstrom. And so I called her up, and at the time, systems didn't connect. It wasn't like, don't hire this person who's been fired.
Yep.
And so she was like, yeah, come down and she was a single mom. You can live with me and I'll hire you at Nordstrom.
Oh,
and
that's
so
cool.
I just kind of slid back.
There you go. I let you were just a shark somewhere else where they didn't get mad at you.
Yeah, exactly.
So then how'd that go? Did you have issues there similarly, or was it like totally different situation?
Yeah, totally different situation. I thrived there. That's where everything really, I was like, oh, this place is made for me. They were they kind of mentored all of their employees, really instilled a family atmosphere, and they help you grow and learn, and it's the Nordstrom culture, and I had loved all of that. So
that's really cool.
I was in it and ended up becoming a buyer. And at some point they were trying to move all the buyers up to Seattle. And so they said, well, you can move. And I didn't want to move to Seattle. And they said, you could move to Utah, because they knew that's where my family was from, and open up our Colorado stores and buy for like Washington, I don't know what region it was.
Got it.
But so I did that, and that's what brought me back home.
That's what brought you back to Utah. Were you still, actually, real quick, how old were you when you moved to California?
20.
You were 20, so young. Were you still in school, or were you like, I'm gonna go work, do my thing?
I mean, I kind of thought I would go back, but once I left, I was like, c'est la vie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There you go.
I left my parking tickets behind and
I'm with
ran.
you there. Yep. Oh, first day of college, my car got booted at my apartment complex. That was the worst morning of my life. That was horrible. Okay, so then you moved. Sorry, side note. So then you moved back to Utah. When did you move back to Utah? How old were you then?
So I was 26.
Cool. So 6 years, you worked your way to be a buyer.
Yeah.
They had you come and start growing a certain region, had you move to Utah. Because were you excited to move back to Utah? Was that like?
I wasn't. My husband, who wasn't my husband at the time, we were just living in LA. He was very excited to move back, and thank goodness, because I might have been like, I'm going to Seattle, or I don't know really where I would have ended up. But he skis, and he's much more outdoorsy than I am, and I think I've become that a lot more now. But so grateful
that's awesome.
That's the turn it took.
I love it. So then you end up in Utah, 26 years old. You're a buyer, which is actually like being a buyer for Nordstrom is actually a pretty big deal. My girlfriend used to be a buyer for a little bit smaller company, and that was like her full-time job. So being a buyer for Nordstrom is like, that's a pretty big deal, right?
I mean, I really thought I was
hot shit.
That's right.
I love it.
Say that on your podcast?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Can I say that in front of you? I want to make sure you don't. Okay, good. Good.
Yeah. I mean, I laughed for many years that like the way I would walk into the appointments with vendors and sort of demand things. And we really did think we were something else.
I love that.
Yeah,
That's
that was
awesome.
Okay. It took confidence to,
you have to.
Yeah.
And Nordstrom's like probably the highest level that you can go become a buyer. Like,
I mean, I thought so at the time. I think it was, still a great company. So definitely.
That's awesome. Okay. So then how long did you do that for? How long did you, and what did that consist of? When you're a buyer for multiple stores and you're starting multiple stores, you're managing quite a bit, I assume.
Yeah. You travel a lot, which was so exciting for me. I was, again, from Utah. I'd never been to New York or anywhere. We traveled a lot to New York and Seattle, and it was just the time of my life. I mean, I was promoted when I was 20. So it was great.
Mm-hmm.
It was heaven, like, New York and dinners and the vendors took such good care of you. And I was learning so much.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a bit like selling, we'd go and buy, and then we'd at the time, Nordstrom was very much like, do what you have to do to sell whatever you buy.
Mhm.
You know, it was very hands-on, and they even let us do the displays and stuff. I remember going to a Hobby Lobby type of a place and buying things from there and hauling them into the store. It was some Western thing. I think I
Mhm.
had hay bales, and it was at South Coast Plaza. I was the manager at South Coast Plaza at the time, and just a department manager, not the store
Mhm.
manager. And I mean, I can't imagine they would ever allow that.
Like you had free reign.
Yeah,
It was
totally.
the
We
wild,
had
wild
free
west.
reign. That Wild West. Yeah, we would like bring in 6-foot tables and put tablecloths on top of them and fold the clothes. It was like Costco almost.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
That's
crazy.
awesome. I love that. So in that time, and then we'll continue with the story. In that time, I assume you probably learned a lot of things or valuable lessons that you've carried on to what you're doing right now. And that's probably why you're sitting where you're sitting and why you do what you do and all of that. What were some of the most important things that you learned at that point in time where you're like, okay, like I learned how to creatively problem solve or whatever it is. What do you think for you was like the most important things that you learned?
I think it was the business workings. Like they teach you everything about financials and projections and you know, once you find something that will sell, how to really turn that into the volume that drives the business. And but yeah, customer service. I think actually so much of what I learned there and their company values are still the values that I use today.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you learned a whole bunch.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. So then how did that progress from there?
So once I had my son, Jack, who you know.
We love Jack. Shout out Jack.
Can we say shout out Jack?
Yeah, Jack. He's
98
right there
studio.
behind the cameras running the 98 studios.
Yeah.
He's one of the 3 studio boys.
Exactly. And so I had Jack, and I was traveling a lot prior to that. And I just kind of thought, you know, maybe I wonder if I could start doing something else. I had a hard time going back to work after he was born. And my cousin, who I had moved in with originally, who got me the job at Nordstrom, she said she had left Nordstrom and she was selling for another brand. And she said, I think there's a lot of opportunity here. You should, you know, find one of the brands that you're buying from and kind of see if you could work for them and sell product to Nordstrom. And so I did. And I remember just kind of being at home, and I'd been working on these orders with a buyer, and suddenly there were fax machines back then, and an order comes like, you know, do through the fax machine.
That's
and
probably exciting though. That's probably way
so
cooler than like an
exciting.
email.
Yeah.
Way cooler than an email.
And I look at it and I'm like, we just made $5,000. Like that was the easiest $5,000 I've ever made.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the selling. Yeah. All of a sudden I was just addicted to.
I bet that was probably that was
selling.
probably the most valuable $5,000 you ever made too, because it probably opened up your
100%.
mind to like the world that you're in now.
Yeah. I had no idea that there was so much opportunity in selling and, you know, presenting products to people and really being passionate and sharing that passion in that way. So it was great.
I love that. So you get into more of an independent type thing where
Mm-hmm.
you're literally in charge of going and pushing certain merchandise and selling something. And
yeah,
was that full commission? Like, or were you salary
full
based?
commission.
So powerful.
Only commission.
I love
Yeah.
that.
I mean, I love that.
Yeah.
It just feels like it's in your control. And
well, it's true. It's like a true, honest. It's a true, honest transaction, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like you don't get paid if you don't produce, and like it teaches the lesson that you are compensated nothing above the value that you provide.
that's right.
Right,
Yeah.
which is
performance based and
yeah, which is super, super cool.
yeah. And you can push and pull back, and it gave me a lot of freedom as a mom. And with the
Was
new
it
baby.
scary to you though? Like in that moment, you're like, oh crap, because I assume as a buyer you have a salary, right, or an hourly, or either one, right? You have
Salary,
guarantee.
and I was compensating that salary because I wanted to make more money, and by selling on the, you know, you could go out and make commission if you
Mhm.
went and sold also. So I was like just selling as a Nordstrom salesperson.
Got it.
And so I was doing both of those things. But yeah, that was when I didn't have family at home.
So was that scary? You just had a kid and you're like, oh, I'm going to go into this full commission. Like if I don't sell anything, I don't get paid anything. And you're obviously used to an income coming in. Like, or were you just like, I'm fine. Like I got this.
Yeah, you know, I think it was scary. My husband was working at Nordstrom. He was a manager in the men's department. And I called him when that order came in and I said, I think you should quit and come home. I can't really remember how it went, but something like that. And he did. And I said, I think I could do twice as much if two of us, if you were helping take care of Jack and we were able to do this together.
Kind of tag team it.
And so he left his job. I think that was a little scary. I think we were still young enough that hope and excitement and Julie, who's my cousin, who kind of introduced me to Nordstrom and then introduced me to where she was really stood behind it and thought that there was a lot of opportunity. Just somebody believing in you like that, and it takes away a lot of that fear.
For sure. Yeah. So then was it pretty smooth sailing from there? It's like, holy crap, opened up the floodgates and everything worked out, or how did it go from there?
Yeah, it was great. It was great. It was, in fact, it just kind of, once my husband, Matt, I'll call him Matt from here on out. He, once we were working together, we were coming up with all kinds of ideas, and we started a tech company actually that made us leave the day job, made us leave selling. And we took everything that we'd made from that selling job and our 401k actually. So that's a terrible idea. Don't do that.
You took all your savings for retirement. You're like, we're
we
betting
had
big.
And had a new baby, and we
you went all in.
Created a tech company. It was called Style Buy. We still use the name, but as it is no more. And started a brand new company.
Cool. And
that was in 98.
That was in
99. No, that was in 99. Yeah.
That's when I was born.
Yeah, see?
That's a good time.
I told you I might have a few years on you.
There you go, right? And then starting that, like, what was the journey? What were like the trials of that? And then where did it go? How did that end up?
So I think that was probably the point where when you're like, were you scared? Or that was a really terrifying experience. It was early tech. We were really excited about creating a platform. I had kind of also like dabbled in consulting for other like small stores in Utah.
Yeah.
And I could see that there was this big miss between these small stores being able to get the same type of treatment that I did as a Nordstrom buyer. So we created a platform that allowed them to kind of combine their orders, get better prices, create these, what their store buy would look like. It was a really incredible technology. I look back now and think it, would be great today, actually. And, but, it was still dial up. Like I said, like my orders came through on fax, and the internet was so slow, and we laugh a lot. Like when you're way too early, you're not really an innovative entrepreneur. You're just stupid. Yeah. And that's kind of what Style Buy was.
You were just a little bit too ahead of the curve.
Yeah. Like 12 years probably. I don't know.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you said as it is no more, meaning that didn't end up working out. So what happened?
We were about to launch. We had some great customers. We had signed Urban Outfitters, and the .com bust, the first one, happened. And so anything that we had lined up, it was just like,
no more. Is that because there were so many duplicates of it? Or everything. Why is that? Because they were like it kind of removed the utility of it, or it just made it cheaper to access somewhere else? Or
I think similar to what's been happening, like there's been a lot of money to invest in tech, and then something happens and it's like, well, this company hasn't even started. We hadn't even launched. And so there was no guarantee we would make any money there. We were having a hard time. Like brands were interested. They were like, anything I can do to sell more product and get it into the hands of the buyers quicker and that whole thing. But buyers were like, we love to travel. Why would we want to buy anything why would we ever buy anything online?
Yeah.
And so we were having a really hard time making that connection and getting them to buy into the concept.
So what do you think forced everyone's hands? This is a side question. What do you think forced everyone's hand to adopt? Like, I would bet over half of all purchases are made online now, probably more.
Yeah.
Like, is it just because it's not an option now? Or what do you think made that adoption rate go up?
I think the speed of buying, like the everything now, the whole process, the funnel of buying product online is so easy, and shipping's easy. And there's, if you think back to before maybe there were so many shipping options and how fast you could get your product.
Yep.
It was just, everything was just really clunky and slow. And I mean, the industry was not prepared for anything like that. There are two companies that one of which we use for our current brands that I get on calls with them, and they tell me what their product is, and they're like, "Do you understand how this would work?" And I think to myself,
You're like,
I mean, kind of, yeah.
you're like, probably more
As
than
a matter
you know.
of fact,
You're like, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I
So
do.
it did eventually happen.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Mhm.
So then at that point in time, right, the bust happens. You can say that company failed or that idea didn't come to fruition how it was going to. You guys are sitting there. Now you're kind of holding the bag. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like you went all in and now you're holding it. And it's like, okay, now what? And at this point you have multiple kids, correct?
We do. We have 2 kids at this point. Mm-hmm.
Multiple kids. So then what? What is that conversation like that night, out of curiosity, for a little insight to like you and your husband? Like, do you just eat dinner like normal, or do you skip dinner? I'm curious.
No. In fact, we were like, that was a horrible time. We were having a hard time getting through it.
Yep.
We weren't really, we had never been through anything hard. So, yeah, we were not doing well as a couple. We were losing our house. We'd put everything into the business. So we were moving into my mother's basement.
Yeah.
I was almost 30. I was like, what just happened?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it was, so I think,
Like the floor fell out from under you.
yeah, it was terrifying.
That is great. Another side question: how grateful are you now, though, for that?
So grateful. I mean, everything that we did from that point on, you know, I think if we would have kept riding on what we did, we never would have kind of started creating and doing what we've done now, which is a lot more in line with what we love doing. And
I love that.
Yeah.
So the reason I asked that question is because it's such a common trend. Everybody that I have on here, it's like you hear their story, it's a roller coaster, then boom, it hits rock bottom.
yeah,
And like it's like every movie too, honestly. It's so funny because it's like all the movies the same. You reach like the point of full dismay, everything's going wrong.
mm-hmm.
And that ends up being like the catalyst or the breakthrough or the moment that's like the most valuable in the end. And it's really hard to have that perspective when you're in that moment. And I think that's why other people's stories are so valuable.
Yeah.
Because some people might be at that point right now in their life and having the
So
perspective
true.
of like, oh, wow, like how could I be grateful for that is really unique. It's super, super, super cool. So
Yeah.
let's go from there. You're in a really tough spot at this point. You guys are like about as tough as it could get, I assume, right?
Yeah.
Kids, brand new kids.
Dark moment.
Right? Dark
Yeah.
moment.
Dark moment.
What spark got you out of there? Or was it just like you just like lived in that for long enough that something fell in your lap? Or did you guys go for something? Like what happened? How did you get out of that?
This is where we really realize that entrepreneurs have an incredible amount of resilience and hope and ideas and excitement. So I think that was kind of the moment when we realized that, or probably a few years after that, but our reset was basically like, what should we do now? Let's open up another company. Let's try something else. Let's kind of go back to what was successful for us and when we were really enjoying life and see if there's a way to build on that.
Mhm.
So, again, through connections of Nordstrom, and we met a manufacturer. It was actually through my cousin. I mean, as I was thinking about this and thinking about you asking about our history, I thought, oh my goodness, she's going to come into this story 3 separate times. But I think you always have someone in your life who's like cheering you on or
They're in your corner.
It's completely. Yeah. So we owe a lot to her. And she introduced us to a manufacturer. He's still our partner today. And so we started developing brands. We ended up, we've developed quite a few brands. And that's, and that's kind of where the last, 15, 20 years kind of began, was developing these new brands.
So when you say developing brands, you guys are like, okay, that didn't work out. We were happy and thriving when we were selling, but we were selling somebody else's merchandise. Why don't we go make our own and sell it? Is that somewhat accurate?
That's exactly. Yeah. We were really intrigued and romanced by the idea of having our own company. Style By, as bad as it was and as many things went wrong, it was so exciting to brand a company consider your own marketing, put your name on it. I think we were addicted and wanted to do more of that.
So then what was that model? You guys were building brand after brand after brand, or one brand, a bunch of products, or like what exactly did your job turn into then from that, like that moment, that the next phase that's taken up the last 15 years, you were saying, like what exactly has filled that time?
Well, the initial the initial idea was just, get with this manufacturer, get into Nordstrom. I think one of the first buyers that I worked with, she works with us now. And I went to her and said, will you buy this t-shirt? And we didn't even have a label or anything. And she's like, hey, actually, I have this t-shirt that I really need. It looks like this. If you could make this, we could place the orders for it. And that happened. And it was just a really fast transaction. It got us back on our feet.
Like your first big win that just kicked everything off.
Yeah. It wasn't even a label we had made up, but it was kind of like, if we could just get some momentum and get some product in somewhere, then we could start developing our brands. And so that happened. And then we developed maybe 3 brands in between. Then we did a lot of product development for stores. Like we did Costco and QVC and just really almost all the retailers across the US that do volume. And we were doing brands for them or their own, like under their own labels, or we were getting our own labels, our personal labels into the market.
That is really, really, that's dope, actually. That's like a different channel than what I would know or under. Like, that's really cool. Like, you guys were like the supplier of, that's very, very cool. So,
of brands, yeah.
Yeah, you were the supplier of brands. So you would go and like kind of cut out the middleman. You guys were like the source, basically.
Yeah, we would source.
Correct?
So, in fact, yeah, that was kind of the concept. It's like, if we could be a little more vertical about this and be have these brands straight from the manufacturer to eventually the customer, which didn't happen for a lot of years. We were selling through other retailers. We weren't getting direct to our customers. And yeah, I think we really enjoyed that time. And it was kind of this constant thing of being able to do new brands. And so we were always in that space of coming up with something new.
Got it. That's way cool. And did you transition from supplying the big retailers and they're carrying your stuff to direct consumer primarily, or now where does it sit? Like fast forward the 15 years, like where you guys are at now, where do you sit? And also secondary question, like what were some of the big milestones or accolades where it was like a moment where you're like, holy crap, this works? Because where you guys sit right now is really, really cool. Yeah. You guys have obviously gone and done all of this. Now you live very successful life. You guys are still doing it. You're dominating, taking over, right? But it's like, what were some of those moments, if you remember any in particular, where you either get this certain order fulfilled, which is a milestone earning or whatever, along the way that then got you to where you're at? And then where is like right now, where do you sit?
Milestone earning would be Costco. We sold one of our brands. It was under the name of Olivia Moon. And that's my daughter's name is Olivia. So we were like, Olivia Moon. And there's a story behind it, but anyway, and so they placed an order, and they placed huge orders. Their orders were so big, and all of a sudden we were like, what if they cancel this order? Or when you're producing product for people, there's a lot of steps that you go through in regards to, maybe if you talk to product development people for any kind of product, if it doesn't come out the color that they requested, or if the fit isn't quite right, they have the option to cancel the order.
So you hold all the risk.
So you hold all the risk. You're kind of in this place for the whole time frame of just holding your breath. Like, gosh, I really hope this happens. I hope everything goes smoothly.
So your biggest wins could also potentially be your biggest losses. Oh, yeah. So it's like, I don't like that.
I know.
That makes me want to puke.
And actually we only did it, I think we did about 4 items, and you're right, I didn't like that. I was like, I don't want to be there. I don't like that type of risk because it puts everything else at risk. And I loved being in Costco, but it wasn't.
How big are those orders? It wasn't my dream
to be a Costco brand.
Like a Costco order is how big?
So the first order we got, it was 400,000 units of a cardigan. One cardigan, yeah. So the other idea is like, if they do cancel this, what am I going to do?
400,000.
400,000 units, you know?
Sell it until 2075.
Yeah. And I remember when it hit the stores, we went in and we were looking at it and I was like, is that going to sell? Like, that is so many units. And I think it took about 6 weeks to sell. It was an eye-opening experience. So I think that did sort of expand what I imagined could happen. You know, when you see that happen, you're like, whoa, who are all these people?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
And then today, did you guys steer away from big retailers holding your brands, and now you guys go and you guys are direct to consumer? What's the business model today?
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, and then I have a question about it.
That transition happened more out of force. We were when in 2020 we were still, we were at Nordstrom and we had just launched at QVC actually, which was great. And in March, when everything shut down, the retailers they just, they canceled all of their orders or they put them on hold. Mm-hmm. And so any manufacturer out there was kind of holding on to this product. You didn't have an outlet for it. And we were in that situation. We had we had started doing these collaborations with influencers where we would develop product for them and collaborate to create these collection drops. And they had been extremely successful. So the product for that, like one of those drops at Nordstrom, we sold over like 700,000 in one day. Oh, and so they had grown, they'd become these kind of monsters. And we were in that pattern. So we had all this product with one of our influencers, and Nordstrom was like, we can't take that in. Our doors are closed, understandably so. It's kind of the risk you take together. But yeah, fortunately, we had these relationships with our influencers. We had built a website because it seemed like we should be online at that point. That was, kind of late in the game of people shopping online. It felt like it was the time to do that. So we built a website, and luckily we had done that. We just kind of pivoted, put all of our product there, started doing our collection launches there, and our customer followed us. They knew the brand. We'd been in Nordstrom since 2008. And so I didn't think it would be a transition like that. And I don't think it would have been like that if it hadn't been for COVID and the pandemic and the time frame and how long it took before we were able to kind of start up again. Mm-hmm. And so, I think that was a great thing that came out of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and stressful moment. And it felt like we were going to go out of business. But again, you just change, and as an entrepreneur, you find new ways to do new business, and that turned out to be a good thing for us. Yeah,
that's like a superpower. That's exactly what I wanted to ask about. Like finding a way to pivot when you need to pivot is so unique. Like too many people hang on to a sinking ship pretty often, right? And those are the stories you hear of people when they're on top of the world and they're thriving and they drive this car and that, and then now they're filing for bankruptcy and whatever it may be. I think a big reason, not always, it's not like a bulletproof, but like finding a way to go pivot and capitalize. And we've interviewed chefs and people from the restaurant industry who thrived during COVID as well. And COVID was one of those times. It was like you kind of saw people's tenure. And I have a question. Do you think from your guys' first business that failed and didn't end up working out, you guys kind of recognized like the writing on the wall when COVID was coming? You're like, okay, we need to pivot something. Or do you feel like because of that is also the reason you were prepped to pivot? Like
I think prepped to pivot.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Because you guys took the time, resources, and energy and effort to go and build out an infrastructure that could have supported you pivoting prior to having to, which is also really unique. It's super like precautionary. And where did that come from? Was that because of the last business or?
I think as an entrepreneur, you do kind of like, oh, what's happening in the market, and let's test some of this. Maybe intuition, a little bit of intuition, a little bit of the concept of like, I want to do something new, and you're always looking for that next thing. And fashion specifically, it changes so often that I think you kind of have to be in that mindset of, what's happening next. And we need to keep up with that. So I think it was it was mostly that. And Nordstrom was in a position, or at the time, it was like 2019 when we built our website, they were kind of looking at their brands and determining if brands were branded enough to stay in their stores. They had kind of gotten to this point where they had a lot of brands that were kind of created for them. And so it was really important to have a national following and to have customers who knew of you and would follow you.
Yep.
Honestly, I think some of that was my surprise when our customers were so excited to see us on our own location and buy from us, because I had been in a little bit of a bubble of like, oh, if we're not at Nordstrom, they will probably never buy from us. But they did. So I don't know if I was, I don't know if I had all the foresight to really be ahead of that, or if it was just.
That's really cool,
luck.
though. That's cool. So then through all of that, right? Like through Nordstrom going and determining what brands they're going to hold on to, what brands they're not going to hold on to, do you guys still have a brand at Nordstrom? Did you guys?
Today, so Gibson Look, which is our brand that we did this with, it was Gibson at Nordstrom. And we added the look during COVID just to not get confused with the guitars. And by force, they forced us. Whole nother story.
Copyright infringement.
Got it. Entrepreneur thing.
Got it. Yep.
Yeah. And so that they carry our product now. They have some of it there. They don't carry a lot of it. Our customers are always like, you have more stuff coming into Nordstrom. Do you have stuff for their anniversary event? And we just haven't gone back to that place. Hopefully we do. I think, we love direct to consumer, but I also think as a brand, you naturally want to meet your customers where they're shopping, and
be in retail.
People are getting back out and they're shopping and they're loving it. And so we're excited.
But the fact that you still have
pieces,
absolutely.
Yeah.
The fact that you still have pieces, though, like your foot's still in the door.
Oh, yeah.
I assume from what you said, it sounds like a lot of brands probably didn't survive that.
I don't think so.
Understood. That's awesome. Yeah. That's big time. I love that. So your story's cool, and like it's fun. I love hearing stories that I don't know the details about. Like I love what I love knowing like surface level where someone's at as far as like their monetary success and like their family situation, stuff like that. And it's like, oh, that's a super inspiring person. And I think the reason people cling to podcasts like this and people like to come and listen, and they take an hour out of their day to go and listen to a podcast about someone that they probably will never meet, right? Is because the stories, like the behind the scenes, like it's like there was a lot that happened to go and get to here. And all the stuff that happened is the stuff that's relatable. Where you're at is not relatable to most people. Right. And I think it's super powerful for people to be able to relate, because then it expands the way they think, and they can go and like actually like even the way like you fill a deal with Costco, like that totally expanded the way you think. You realize your customer base would follow you wherever you went. That expands the way you think. It's super similar to people that go and listen to your story, which I love. So I've got a few questions for you. Throughout your whole process and career and everything like that, what attributes do you feel like were like the key, or the keystone attributes that you and or your husband, right, have practiced and displayed to go and get through everything? Because being an entrepreneur, there's a massive amount of reward, but there's a massive amount of risk.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of qualities. What ones to you, in your experience, were the most important, most valuable qualities?
I think to start, it's hope, or a concept and an idea, and the, kind of moving beyond. Like if you have something that you're excited about, so many people will tell you that is a terrible idea.
Why do you think that is?
You should not do that.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
I think family, it's sort of, they're trying to protect you or something.
Yep.
And I think your friends don't get it necessarily, or I don't know what it is. What do do you hear that a lot?
Yeah, I do. And I've thought about that a lot, actually.
Yeah. Why do you think, what do you think about it?
I think there's a lot of reasons. I think, for example, like the way that I think about it is like, okay, we have an opportunity for young people to go and like exponentially speed up the process of finding financial success. And I think with the reason parents would be like, no, like avoid that, like don't do it, you're crazy, is because the type of opportunity that like in my experience, the type of opportunity I had, my parents had never seen.
Yeah.
So
a
it
good
was
point.
like, it was so foreign that it almost didn't seem real.
Yeah.
And then when it's like friends, where it's like they know the opportunity because they've seen people go and get it. I think some people are too scared to bet on themselves, and they want to scare you out of betting on yourself because they know that if you do, it might work. And then that shows like, oh, like they're not taking like the leap of faith. So it's kind of like a misery loves company in a way.
Yep.
And then I think other people, like I think it's just way easier to go and like pretend to care about somebody if you can like talk them out of something that holds a lot of risk. And entrepreneurship or anything in that realm holds a lot of risk. So you can like, I can seem like I care about you a lot by helping you avoid
getting into any
trouble, even though it might not be rooted in the right place.
Yeah.
And it might be from a totally ignorant stance, and it might be like just not understanding. But selfishly, it can help my relationship with you. I've thought about that a lot. I don't know. And that's changed a little bit over the years. And I have realized, like, as far as parents go, because that's what I have the most experience with because I work with young people, parents never don't want to see you go be successful. Like, that is not 99% of the time not their rooted like desire. Their rooted desire is, I know a path that worked for me, and like I think you should take that path because it's the only one I understand fully.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yes. I think when you also as a parent now and watching my kids do brave things like being entrepreneurs, or, you know, my daughter wants to be a musician and she's in LA. And I think there is a spirit to being an entrepreneur where you sort of don't pay attention to what's around you, and you do have to have this like eye on the prize kind of thing. And I'm just moving ahead, and I kind of keep coming up with new ideas, and it helps you to not pay attention to the people that kind of want to, there is that sense of, I don't know if it's wanting to pull you down or if it's that they don't always understand like what it takes to get there and what your mindset is. Because really, once you've decided to do something, I think if you're in this entrepreneur state, you're just kind of gonna do it.
Yeah, you don't care.
You're just like, I'm doing this. And you can get really scared and pulled back by other people. And maybe you'll stop for a minute. But I think even in what we've done, we absolutely just kind of kept finding our way to what we really want.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that we're there. I think we probably want a lot of other things with our business. We want to grow this direct to consumer piece. And it's like it never ends what you want to do. So it's just a drive. It's within you to keep doing things, innovating, having a good time with it. Yeah. And the misery. I mean, it is a roller coaster.
Yeah.
I'm this today, talk to me tomorrow.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm gonna be like, this is a terrible idea.
100%, right?
Yeah.
Oh, as always. I love
it's
it.
Scary.
It is.
And so maybe we also kind of torture ourselves a bit,
Yeah, 1,000%. But it's the reward is so great that it's worth it, right?
Totally.
So
I
then,
think so.
Yeah, hopefully, right?
Yeah.
Or we're
we've
just giving
failed more
some
than once.
terrible advice.
Yeah.
And you guys shouldn't listen to a word we say.
I do think like there's a lot of talk about entrepreneurs these days, and like Utah's such an incredible place because there's just an entrepreneur spirit here.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of leads back to like, oh, I'm so glad we were here.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know with certainty that we would have just kept coming up with new ideas. And I mean, you can't really go anywhere without hearing some incredible stories of people that have done unbelievable things and created incredible companies. And I'm probably using the word incredible too much, but it's
true.
Utah really does have that at its core. And I think that's very motivating.
100%. I agree 100%. And I think it's like, it's fun to do these because it's such a common like trend. And my job is just to go and like piece that together, see it, and explain it if it needs to be explained. And I love it. So then you talked about your kids a little bit being entrepreneurs. So my question for you then would be, most people that listen to this, they're probably entrepreneur minded. Like they're in their late 20s, early 30s, like trying to go and like get through that next step in life. What attributes or what things let me ask it in a way that I think will be really, really like easy to answer. Like, what things do you hope your kids understand as they go and embark in their own little entrepreneurial journey? Like, what
Yeah.
life principles or lessons that you learned do you hope they already understand? Or if you could just give it to them and like lift their head up and put it in their
Should
brain.
I look straight at Jack?
Yeah,
or-
look right at Jack and tell him exactly what you hope and pray that he like understands and internalizes.
Actually, I'll just use an example of something I think we could have done better. And that is there is the opportunity, even more so now because things are changing faster with technology and marketing. And I wish that we would have spent a little bit more time learning more about everything, all of that, going through the situation that we did in regards to the pandemic and having to pivot. And that I've never worked so hard in my life as we have the past. Well, I don't know what it's been. Let's not talk about that. But
Yeah.
as learning marketing and that has been like the worst thing and the best thing. It's an incredible reward that I fully understand marketing funnels and e-commerce and I have always wanted to mentor and teach what I know to other people. I look back now and I think that my limited knowledge, while incredible with selling to other companies and creating products and that whole process was amazing. Now what I know is just it was like a whole new world opened up.
Yeah.
So I think for entrepreneurs, we want to always create and create and create, and then there's also this incredible opportunity to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I might say that. Always be aware of what you might be missing because it's a lot of opportunity.
100%.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. So to kind of pivot a little bit, and this is like my favorite question to ask moms. What has being a mom taught you?
Oh, my kids teach me a lot of things emotionally and throughout that where you can make you're like Barbara Walters or whoever. You're going to try to make me cry.
No, I cried. No, I cried for the first time on my own podcast a few episodes ago, and I cry easy, so I gotta keep it somewhat service level. But if it goes there, it goes there. Right?
Oh no, my kids that have taught me everything I know. I mean, really, you go through them growing up and the emotions that you have with that. It's almost hard to put into words, like they'll do something or they'll say something empathetic to others. And it, as an entrepreneur, you can be kind of so focused and I'm very much that way. I go about my daily things and have my lists and that whole idea. And my kids were always there to ground me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's super, super cool. I love that.
And of course, they bring hope.
What do you mean by that?
When you have children, I think it's just a very hopeful space as they're growing up. Yeah, I'll cry. I'm not going to do it.
I'm trying to make Jack cry, actually.
Since he's right there.
I'm trying to make Jack cry, actually. Okay, I won't
Actually,
cry
Jack
anymore. We don't want to make you cry.
Inspired us to start a t-shirt line called Jack Tees when he was little. He loved t-shirts with trucks on them. He's shaking his head over there.
You better still have some of those.
He sent me a picture. Actually, make him post the picture that he has of him in this little t-shirt on this podcast.
You bet. On the video, there will be a little box with Jack in the Jack's tee. I like that.
And we should go back to that. It is an excellent idea. And so that came before any of our brands. We were like ironing on these little things on t-shirts.
I love that.
Yeah. So
that's amazing. Okay,
created a website.
Jack has to put a picture up. We've mentioned it enough now. It's got to be on there.
Yeah.
So to pivot so you don't cry.
Yeah.
My last question for you, and I want to be respectful of your time and everyone else's. So the title of the podcast is Today's the Day. And the theory behind that is yesterday already happened. There's not really anything you can do. There's nothing you can do. Tomorrow may not happen. So there's no sense in worrying about that or spending energy and time thinking about that. So today, like, literally is the day. Like, this is what you've got. And the goal of the podcast is to have people on here who embody that, and I think anyone who is an entrepreneur and anyone who goes and finds success in life and gets through the hard times and all of that, I think they are kind of embodying that in a big way. So my question for you is, what advice do you have to people to help them live life through that perspective and that lens of like being present today is all you've got. There's no sense in worrying and like living in the moment. Like what advice do you have or what's helped you do that?
Gratitude. 100%. I think that there's that joy comes from the smallest things. I do this thing where I write down everything kind of good that we accomplished for the day. And it, of course, it includes like your team and all these people working so hard to make things happen, because sometimes it feels like everything's going like you're hit.
Yep, exactly.
You're just slammed from every side. I think life in general can feel that way. So yeah, gratitude. And just the smallest things make the biggest difference to kind of shine that light on your day and kind of end your day with joy and yeah.
I love that answer. Like I think that's
just a big thank you.
Yeah, I think that's like the best. I think that is probably my personal favorite answer. And if you were to look at like negative emotions like fear and worry and doubt and all of that as a type of sickness, the antidote is always gratitude. Like there are other things that you can go and feel that'll help, but like the antidote, like fear and gratitude cannot coexist.
No.
Right. And I think that's a perfect answer. I think that's really, really cool. And sometimes we just need to check ourselves and be like, my life's actually not that bad. And if you're listening to this podcast, that means you have a phone or a computer or some way your life is not that bad. So I think that's a really powerful answer. I love that.
There's a way out also.
There is.
There's always a way out.
100%.
Yeah. I'll say that, knock on wood.
100%. I love that. Again, thank you so much. I appreciate your time so very much. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. They've been in the studio a long time with me already today. So thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you everybody for tuning
Thanks for having
in.
me.
And as always, much love. Until next time. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. As always, it was a blast for me. I hope you got something out of this. If you got something out of this video of value, share this with a friend and please go show your love. We're on all streaming platforms, including YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. Any ratings, comments, likes, shares, they go a very long way and they make it so I can keep doing these things for you. And I would appreciate it greatly. So please go share with a friend. Until next time.